Give a middle-class tax cut to 100 million Americans. Enact the first ever federal ban on price gouging on groceries. And fight to make sure that hardworking Americans can actually afford a place to live. If you are caring for an elderly parent, my plan will cover the cost of home care under Medicare.
Hi again, everyone. It's now 5 o'clock in New York. We watched that together. That's Vice President Kamala Harris from a few moments ago. And for voters who say the economy is the most important issue for them in the election, there's a trove of new information, new data points out today that just might bolster Kamala Harris's message and sound a whole lot of alarm bells about Donald Trump's. Brand new reporting in the Washington Post reveals how companies are preparing, should Trump win, for Trump's sweeping, publicly announced, proudly bragged about, and planned tariff plan. And it ain't pretty. Timothy Boyle of Columbia Sportswear told the Post, quote, "We're set to raise prices. We're buying stuff for delivery next fall, so we're just going to deal with it, and we'll just raise the prices. It is going to be very, very difficult to keep products affordable for Americans." He's talking to you, fleece vest wearers. The CEO of AutoZone said on a recent earnings call this, quote, "If we get tariffs, we will pass those tariff costs back to the consumer." And the co-founder of a small business, Lelo, which makes baby and toddler products, of which I buy many these days, says of tariffs, quote, "It just hurts the consumer straight up, 10 times out of 10. Exporting countries do not pay the tariffs. It's that simple." All the while, Elon Musk, the man who Trump wants to lead a, quote, government efficiency commission, who also has multiple companies with massive contracts and deals with the U.S. government, just recently said that in order to cut back on government spending, there will be some temporary hardships. This is what Donald Trump is selling to the American people. Stuff gets more expensive, and publicly stated hardships are warned. Meanwhile, an economic report released earlier today shows GDP rose at a 2.8% rate in the most recent quarter. New York Times puts it like this, quote, "Consumers are spending, inflation is cooling, and the U.S. economy looks as strong as ever." It's where we start today with two of our experts and friends, people who know more in their little pinky fingers than I ever will about the economy. Co-anchor of Squawk Box, CNBC's signature morning program, and New York Times columnist Andrew Ross Sorkin. Thank you for being here. Also joining us, my wing woman, anchor of the 11th hour here on MSNBC, NBC News senior business analyst Steph Roll. So I know the political landscape and how things get distorted, and I know some of the calcification. I was a Republican who used to campaign on a message for economy. But the data is now so enduringly obvious that it is not true. So what is this about?
Well, I think what it's been about is about politics for the last several years. And if a group of people are told and frankly misinformed over and over and over again that the economy is terrible, they think to themselves that the economy is terrible. But the truth in black and white, I like to think that we live in a very world of gray. This is black and white. Historically, under any empirical measure you can find, this economy is flying. It's hot. You have wages up this morning at 4.6% year over year. I mean, there's no number in these reports, whether it's about economic growth, whether it's about jobs, whether it's about wage growth. You know, they say, well, what will the economy be like if the next 4 years were anything like this last 4 years? What would it be like? It would be actually quite extraordinary. I mean, just think about the trend line of what's happening here. If it were to actually continue this way, it would, I mean, I think people would think we're living in Alice in Wonderland.
Andrew's absolutely right. But the reason we're sort of susceptible to this idea with people feeling like it's bad is because life is expensive. And while wages have gone up, right? When I get a raise, I think that's because I'm great. But when everything costs when everything costs more money, I blame the government. So people don't connect the two. So even though they have more money in their pocket, they have more purchasing power, when things cost more, they're angry. And that anger, those are the things you talk about day in and day out. You talk about it when you go to a restaurant and it costs more and your drinks cost more and the groceries. So that feeds into it. And we know it's expensive to buy a house. It's expensive to rent an apartment. But for Kamala Harris, What she has been doing now, and it's been important to articulate, inflation is a problem. But what Donald Trump is offering the American people is only going to worsen inflation, worsen the deficit. And when you're the president, you don't have a magic wand to fix things. You mentioned it just a moment ago. We have a housing shortage, and no president can wave a magic wand and solve that. She's trying to address it. But A, we have a housing shortage, and B, at a federal level, it's very difficult to put affordable housing around this country, because go to cities and towns, and what are you going to hear at every township meeting? That people don't want affordable houses built in their town. So it's a complicated problem that the current administration gets tagged with. But what they're finally leaning into now is it's not just the data. We're doing well as a country. We just are.
And I guess what I want to understand is Trump used to do his things that would hurt him politically in private, and we would learn about them through investigative journalism or through business leaders that he was on the phone with. Now he says them from podiums. This tariff thing would hurt everyone.
It would, but for Trump, and this is what I think is getting missed, is his perfect way to pick winners and losers. It's why you're seeing more and more business leaders either saddle up to him or just go quiet, because it's not like he's going to instill tariffs across the board, but he remembers, and he was humiliated in Lordstown when he said, don't sell your house, nobody's shutting down a plant. He learned last time around he doesn't get to control what Ford does and GM does, but what he does get to control is you get a tariff. You get a waiver.
Right.
This guy gets, so Andrew and I could be in the same business, but if Andrew's his homeboy, he could give Andrew a waiver, and that gives Andrew a monopoly.
Well, now
so
we're
Trump
talking
has realized the huge power it gives him.
It's a power grab. And by the way, that's why you're hearing these stories about some of the major Fortune 500 CEOs who are now not just going silent, but in some ways, making private phone calls to him, cozying up to him either in public or private, because they know that if he does win, they need to be able to make that phone call, and they're going to need his help. By the way, Apple makes most of its products in China. Tim Cook needs Donald Trump to be nice to him. Why do you think you haven't heard much from Apple?
Wait. This is now not a conversation about the economy. This is a conversation about the richest and most powerful people in the world leaning into autocracy. Why is that where they are?
They wouldn't think of it that way.
Well, it is. I mean, have them call all the companies in Hungary whose daughters tweeted ugly pictures of old Victor. I mean, a capricious autocrat doesn't give a hoot if you called and said nice things or didn't go to a Kamala Harris rally.
If we have an autocracy, then democracy won't work. The economy won't work. But in their minds, they're thinking they're beholden to their customers, their employees, and their shareholders. And they're rationalizing it. And I'm not defending it, but they're rationalizing it by saying, I have to just do my job. And for my company, I need to make sure I'm on the right side of whomever the next president is. And the truth is, if they end up on the wrong side of Kamala Harris, she's still going to do the right thing. She's still going to treat every business the same way. And they know they're dealing with something truly different in Trump. And I'm not excusing it, but that's their mindset.
But if the wealthiest people in America can't stand up to something that they think is a threat, and some of them actually do.
Who?
You can
name one. Who?
Reid Hoffman, former CEO of LinkedIn, right? And that's
he's out there. But what I was going to say is
Mark Cuban, maybe who I think is the best.
Why is Jamie Dimon telling people in the New York Times that he's voting for Kamala Harris, but
and won't say it out loud?
Yeah, why?
Right? I was going to say Jamie Dimon used to donate to political figures under his own name, right? Now he doesn't. His wife does. He doesn't do it. Why? Because
the men are literally hiding behind the women. I mean, this is everything happening in this moment.
Warren Buffett used to literally throw rallies for Hillary Clinton. Was very public about how he felt because he was a CEO that he didn't give away his right to vote or to support candidates. This year, he said, I'm not going to get involved in it. The country's become too tribal.
And it's also bull because in Jeff Bezos's case, right, where he wrote the op-ed on Monday, and he said, listen, there's been such a loss of trust in this country. It doesn't matter who you do. There's no loss of trust on both sides. The reason there's a loss of trust in media is because for the last 30 years, far right-wing media, right, Roger Ailes is laughing up at us from hell. They created this loss in trust, right? Day in and day out, as Donald Trump is telling you, I'm going to sue Pennsylvania and this election is rigged. It's those lies that have been told over and over, day in and day out for the last 30 years that's caused this distrust. And for Jeff Bezos to kind of hide behind that, well, there's no trust out there. If Jeff Bezos was going to make the decision, because he's now given a free pass to all sorts of other business leaders to now hide, for Jeff Bezos to say on the eve of the election, we're not endorsing, that doesn't fly. It would have worked if he said it in January, potentially.